I'm for real with my keys. Yeah, yes, I'm for real when I walk with that segment. I swear to God, I do not miss. Yeah, yes, I'm for real when I walk in the building. They asking like where I got.
Recently, everyone's been talking about how deep and dark their Lego lore was as kids, so I figured I'd throw my hat in the ring and introduce you guys to get something out of the way. I didn't know the difference between Bionicles and the Hero Factory brand that got introduced later on when I was a kid. So we had Bionicles and we had Hero Factory figures, and they're both kind of the same deal. Hero Factory is really just a rebrand of Bionicles. So throughout the rest of the video, even if it's a Hero Factory figure, I'm going to be calling it a Bionicle. They're all Bionicles in my mind, so let's dive right in. It all started with the Great Hero Factory War. So there's a big war with all the Hero Factory heroes and all the villains that they face throughout their series. Explode, Corroder, Rotor. Some survive, some die, but the remaining heroes create a group, and they fought random villains that would just pop up. It being a city full of crime and cry. They fought a little dude named Breaker, a medium dude named Mr. Good and Evil, a pretty big dude named Galaxy Gorilla, who was a big gorilla who traveled across the galaxy to specifically join my lore, all that good stuff. But then a really, really evil guy named Razor creates a group of villains to fight against our group of heroes. His little group of villains consists of himself, Breaker, Mr. Good and Evil, a few other guys that aren't important, dude named Whiplash, yada yada, a few other nameless villains, and the Joker. You know, like the one from the Batman, the Joker, the iconic Bionicle, the Joker. Now's a good time for me to address, there are a lot of crossovers in my Lego lore. They cross over with all kinds of dudes. Star Wars, Transformers, Marvel, DC. They even cross over with Five Nights at Freddy's, and Foxy and Bonnie are officially part of the hero team. Then later on one Christmas, our family gets us a bunch of new Bionicles. Hooray! But you know what this means for the lore? There needs to be some explanation for why all these Bionicles are here. So, in the lore, there is a dimensional merging between this dimension with a bunch of these new type Bionicles and the other guys. This introduces a whole ton of people. We got crocodiles walking around. We got ravens walking around. With this dimensional merge also comes the introduction to the elements, which are exactly what they sound like. They're weapons embodying an element. One of the newcomers from the new universe, Gala, wields the trident of water. Another newcomer, Trelaman, wields the chest plate of earth. Another newcomer has the spear of ice. Another one's got the skis of lava, jetpack of electricity, blade of air, Helmet of Flames and Mask of Light. Now I saved the best two for last, the Helmet of Flames and the Mask of Light. Those two are important because they are wielded by some very old Bionicles, Matanui and Akar. See, each element contains extreme power that can be harnessed by Bionicles, but the wielders of the element already contain the powers of flight, they contain the powers to control the element itself, but the Mask of Light is very special in this respect. The Mask of Light actually corrupts their mind over time if you don't harness the element correctly and learn to control it. This is where the first bit of character lore comes in. Matanui is a psycho killer. Over the years, the Mask of Light has taken on many Matanuis. Some were really good people, really good heroes, and some were really bad people. One of them murdered this entire race of bug guys called the Scarab. That's besides the point. After these new guys merge with the normal dimension, we get all kinds of wacky shenanigans. Some of the new guys join the heroes, some of the new guys join the villains. Two of the new guys are jumped by a group of villains and dismantled and destroyed, and the leader of the villains, Razor, decides to build their corpses into a bodyguard called Clawface, because he has a claw for a face. Try to keep up. Now that you have kind of a grasp of what this world looks like, it's time for me to describe the cycle of violence. We get all kinds of heroes, like Metal Man, who was born and then he dies, and Shapeagon, who was born and then he dies, and then the Sniper, who was hired to snipe someone and then he dies. We got the Old Beast and the Teen Beast and the Baby Beast, who are all beasts. space and then they die. All these Star Wars people, Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, Kylo Ren, they all die. We got Gala, who purely exists because I misread his name on the box to be Gala when I was a kid and remembered it as Gala, but it was really Gally. But no, Gally is his sister and she's dead. We got a whole people group of called the Insects, who consist of a bee guy named Honeycomb, a freaking grasshopper guy, a tarantula, a June bug, a mantis, and they're all dead. We got a group of bounty hunters who's alive right now, but they've replaced the previous group of bounty hunters who all died. Galaxy Gorilla's sons come back. Yay, his sons that he abandoned, but no, they died too. We got all kinds of villains who are dead. Patriot and Lasher. And remember those guys from the beginning? The Hero Factory villains? Corroder and Explode. And yeah, they came back from the war. They're alive now. No, they're not. They're dead. The reason for all of this violence is that I wanted to keep introducing new characters into the story, but for that to happen, I only had a certain amount of Bionicle pieces. So I needed to kill a few of the ones that we were not too fond of at the time within the story to make room for new guys. That's what starts the cycle of violence. Constant torment and pain for the heroes and villains of the story, yes, but fun for me. Now you're probably thinking this story sounds very disconnected and very random so far. You would be right. So that's why as I got older and I got more into stories, I started to introduce more overarching plot lines. So I'll list a few of those here. These usually come in the form of big threats or singular villains that the heroes and villains oftentimes have to team up to defeat. First, it was the Soul Stealer, this really kooky guy who would go around taking out people's cores. Have I mentioned the cores yet? For most of the Hero Factory characters that they created, they had a little piece on them that had an H on it. Well, that is what's called their core. And if you take the core out of a Bionicle, they dead. They pretty much just a useless husk of a body. And if you destroy the core, then that character can't respawn. They're robots, so usually you would just rebuild them. But the core, if the core is destroyed, their personality and everything is in the core, so they gone. But as long as you can get that core back in their body, everything is gonna be A-okay. But the Soul Stealer would go around yanking and yoinking people's cores and keeping them on his person. Later on, this one Bionicle takes over the hero team. His name is Retro, and he's a really good guy. He's a boxer, so he's very skilled in hand-to-hand combat. He has a big old shell on his back to protect him from damage. He has this technology in his chest where he can send out a shockwave and it depowers any core in the area. It's very cool. But one of the other big threats was a guy named Retron, who was the evil counterpart to Retro from another dimension. There was a dude named the Illusionist, who was pretty much just Mysterio, and he tormented the heroes after Retro had one of his deaths. Then there was this evil warlord, warmongering guy, murderer, mass murderer, conqueror, the evil destroyer of worlds. His name was Kronos, and just ignore the blatant similarities to Thanos here. I didn't base him off Thanos at all. Kronos' whole mission was to go to the planet that the Bionicles live on and steal each and every element so he could become the most powerful dude. He was even accompanied by a group of Dark Council members who would do his bidding and had a deep personal connection with the mad guy. Anyways, after a massive war where heroes and villains rise and fall and live and die, Kronos eventually gets all the elements, and then he flies up into the air like in a cacophony of all the elemental matter floating around that you can imagine, and then disappears. Ready to go? You'll find out later. Then there was another story arc involving the people who created the Mask of Light. They were the last 3 mechanics left who worked on it, but then 2 of them got killed by Kronos. Oh, he's back, by the way, and he's white now. And he uses the parts from these 2 dead guys to build his own Matanui. Silver Matanui. And we got a dude named Great White who uses a mind control device to control Gala to kill the King of the Sea. Oh no! Gala's a bad guy, but he didn't want to do that. Then we got another little evil guy, the Golden Beetle, who might be the brother to Silver Beetle. But you'll never know. And then there's an event revolving around a disease that goes around in the real story that I haven't talked about yet, but it's called skeletonitis. Can you guess what happens to someone with skeletonitis? This story follows 3 guys that have skeletonitis. There's a little green guy named Stratagem, this tall clone trooper named Trooper, he's one of the leftover clones from one of the Star Wars crossovers, and this other clone trooper looking mofo named Haste. After the 3 of them go on a silly mission to get a cure for skeletonitis from Silver Beetle, Silver Beetle knocks out Trooper and Haste. Why'd you do that? But then Stratagem is like, so, you have that cure for me? And apparently Silver Beetle only had enough cure for Stratagem. That's kind of screwed up. But alas, Stratagem takes the cure and disappears to... You'll find out later. After a bit more shenanigans, random stuff happening, Whiplash turning out to be Surge, and Kronos' son. So Kronos is a dad now. Yay! Time for politics. A citizen named the Senator rises up and starts talking bad about the heroes in front of the whole city. So the heroes are like, this ain't no good, because now the people are gonna elect this guy president. So Retro runs for president. But then the new king of the sea, Polywog, is like, I don't think this is good at all. I'm running for president. In the middle of one of the senator's speeches, Kronos stands up and he's like, hey, I may be an evil warmongering warlord, but I agree with what this guy's saying. These heroes are trouble. Little does Kronos know that the senator has a little police force of his own, and they imprison Kronos and show that they're not gonna let anything amok go on. They're not a corrupt government. So a few Bionicles hired by Silver Beetle put together this prison break to get Kronos out of the prison dimension that the elusive Portal Master has created with the help of a secret figure. And so the prison break commences, and let's just say, it goes horribly wrong. Polywog and the senator have a secret meeting, and they're like, listen, we can't have these heroes running rampant. So here's what we're gonna do. Just in case the people side with the heroes and Retro wins the people's vote, we are going to combine our parties so that we have a better chance of winning. And so that is exactly what goes down. Polywog ends up getting 24% of the people's vote. The senator ends up getting 33% of the people's vote. But Retro, really looking to sway the people's viewpoint on the heroes, gets up on the podium and gives a massive speech before they do the election. And Retro gets 43% of the vote, making him the winner, or so he thinks. Polywog mentions their previous arrangement, and they add up their 24% and 33% to 57% of the people's vote against Retro's 43. After the election, a bomb goes off. And a big fight ensues. And the heroes decide enough is enough. Teamed up party? What are you talking? And then a bombing? It's obviously a setup against the heroes, so the heroes devise a plan. But there's more to the senator than meets the eye.
You're under arrest, Senator. You can't arrest me. I'm the president. That's crap. Retro won that election. Ignorant child. If you arrest me, they'll riot in the streets. They'll tear down your base and hunt down every last hero. I'm sorry to have to do this, Retro, but today, I'm not the one getting impeached. You probably don't recognize me. Allow me to jog your memory. Destroyed the city. Almost. When I couldn't overwhelm the heroes, I decided to overtake them. What did you do? I created a vessel, but my plan is already finished. We can walk out of here with me in cuffs, but of course, the senator's dead, and it'll be your fault.
The heroes well and truly lost. Their reputation in the public eye was forever tainted, no matter what they did with Stratagem. But what they were going to do with him doesn't matter, because Portal Master shows up and picks up Stratagem to take him to his little prison dimension. And you're probably wondering, who does Portal Master even keep in here anyway? And who did he make this thing with? That's where Silver Beetle comes in. Silver Beetle's been a little suspicious from the beginning, but he's more than meets the eye as well, because he's the one who had this bomb made that they planted at the election. He's the one who helped Portal Master create the prison dimension. Who else could with his magic cosmic power? And he's the one who's the catalyst for what happens next. You see, to build the bomb, he hired this guy named Thomas Technic. He invented the mind control device. He invented the bomb. And after this is discovered by a bounty hunter named Jigsaw, Jigsaw is promptly taken care of by Thomas Technic.
No, wait.
Pollywog ends up taking over as president, and he hires a few people to help enforce his guard, along with Speed Demon and Bifold. And by a few people, I mean the Dark Council. He hires the Dark Council. Retron finds a way into the prison dimension and fights its guard, the Warden. The battle is rough, but Retron emerges victorious, and he releases the captives of the prison. Retron puts together a group of the most sinister villains the heroes have ever faced, just to torment Retro. Retro is beaten and cornered on a rooftop when, all of a sudden, he's saved by the Dark Council. The thing that's really important to note is Retron also recruited Stratagem to be in his chosen because of all the damage he has caused. And he chose Stratagem to be his strategy man, naturally. But the way Stratagem set things up and the places he put each villain actually counteracted so that all of the greatest villains that the heroes ever faced fell apart. But in the end, the last one standing was Stratagem. We find out in Retron's chosen is also Thomas Technic, who, surprise, surprise, built the portal device that got Retron into the prison in the first place. Turns out Thomas has been a long-time fan of Retron. Thomas Technic was his peon, following every order to a T. So once Stratagem comes back to deal with the final member himself, this happens.
Thomas.
Stratagem. You dealt with the villains already? Where's Retron? Where's the rest of the team?
I know you know. I planned for this.
You were never on our side, were you?
It was simple, really. The predators hunt the prey. But if you put the predators in the same cage, what you got there?
The king will have your head.
Your king is weak-minded. He will never know anything more than torture and domination. When his chosen tear this world to shreds, I'll be there to watch. Though I have not a care for the city, your king's land will burn at his hand.
If it be his wish.
And that is where the real story has left off. What's gonna happen next? You'll find out later. This story is still ongoing. I'm actually currently working on a stop motion for a later storyline involving Razor and his brother. This story is very near and dear to my heart, so I thought I'd share it with you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're a newcomer to this channel, this is outside the usual realm of content, but drop a like if you liked it, drop a dislike if you didn't like it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.